Join the stars of the Ancient Aliens TV show, Eric Von Doniken, as he returns to Manchester after an amazing response to his last presentation. David Childress will guide you through the evidence left behind. Mike Barrow will take you to other worlds, where Nick Pope will present the real X-Files. Paula Harris will share incredible testimonies. It's time to believe and raise consciousness. Join like-minded souls on Saturday, June 23rd, 2018 for Awakening.
What do you believe?
Hey guys, and welcome to another edition of The Moore Show. My name's Kevin Moore, and on today's show I'm about to be joined by my guest, past life channeler, William Shaffer. Now, I met William whilst filming my documentary They Call Us Channelers in Cardiff in the United Kingdom. Now, just to give you a bit of background on William, he's an Akashic Reader and Dream Consultant. He's also able to tune in or channel your higher self and provides past life readings. Now, William has given past life readings to thousands of people and co-authored the book Illuminating Physical Experiences. So enjoy my in-person interview with William Shaffer. Hi guys, well I'm currently joined here with William Shaffer, who's an Akashic Reader, and we've just done our interview for the documentary They Call Us Channelers. Thank you so much for coming on to this.
My pleasure.
And thank you for letting us use your front room as well to do the recording.
No problem.
And take it apart. So we're currently based in Cardiff, Wales, where you're situated now. I've known you for a number of years now. How long have we known each other for?
Over 10 years.
Over 10 years, isn't
Over
it?
10.
Yeah, and you've travelled all over the UK, and you've pretty much found your home now, haven't you?
Yes.
In Cardiff. I couldn't see you leaving here right now.
No.
Not at all, no. Now, just explain to the audience what you do as well, because you've got a really unique gift.
Okay. Well, I'm what's called an Akashic Reader, and I am channeling from your higher self through my higher self the history of all your lifetimes that leads you up to this point, to help you understand why things are the way they are in your life and in your body, so that you understand why things are the way they are, and to help you make the proper choices that will be most beneficial and supportive to you at this time.
Yeah, and that's such a loaded intro there, isn't it? There's so much into your work. And in the documentary, we did go really deep as well. Gosh, where should we start here? Well, okay, for those who may not have come across your work before, let's start there. So basically, we're all a soul having a human experience.
We're a spiritual being creating soul experiences. Every time you incarnate, you create a soul experience. And that is for us to continue on the path of whatever unresolved karmic emotional issues that still need to be completed, so we can achieve the highest level of healing and transformation to help us on the path of our growth.
Right, absolutely. Now, I will link your past interviews that you've done with me in the description below, because there was one for one in person that you've done before, and of course one by the phone. I think you came on.
Mm-hmm.
So there's and I kind of do want to go over them again, because I think, you know, again, for people that have not come across this material, I think it's important to do so. So in those previous two interviews, you described the spirit as being the necklace on a soul, and the pearls on a soul being
I use this symbol of a necklace to understand the difference between spirit and soul. We are spiritual beings, and each time we incarnate, we create a soul experience. So the string that connects all the pearls is the spirit, the original spiritual being. Each time we incarnate, we create a life experience, and that's a pearl.
Yeah.
And so the pearls in the string, they all make up one being, but each pearl is its unique individuality. And each time we incarnate, it's another pearl on the necklace.
Now, so we came as a soul. We came from somewhere. You term it as the all that is. God is another word for the all that is.
Yes.
Yep. What is not God?
Nothing. There's no such thing. Because it's the all that is.
Because it's the all that is, right? Okay. So we've come from that space. Why did it want to? Well, I say it, he, she,
I always say it.
Yeah, it. Why did it need to have this? Why did it subdivide itself for it to have this experience? When I say subdivided, I've got that from Neil Donald Walsh. The idea that the soul splits into an infinitive number of pieces. The God source did to have this experience. Why did it? And can you go down that direction as well?
Yeah, and we're using a different semantics here with words, which gets to be tricky, because we are spiritual beings. Soul is spirit incarnated into an experience. That's the difference, although it's all one and the same anyway.
Yeah.
But the totality, the all that is, existed and was aware of its existence, and that's all that was. It was just existing and was aware of its existing. And somewhere, somehow, it realized this isn't enough because it wasn't expanding. Nothing was happening with it. And somehow, somewhere, it realized that what it was missing is that while it had awareness of itself, it wasn't really experientially feeling or being itself. So it needed to create this experience, this universe, in order to emotionally embody and feel totally the truth of its awareness.
and it's always been doing that. That's been its purpose forever.
Well, I mean, who can say? That's kind of hard to answer, because while we're in this incarnate soul experience, our conscious mind is very limited in what it's able to grasp. And there's a reason for that, because we tend to get lost in our heads. We get so lost in what we think we know and understand, it becomes a deflection. It becomes a way to avoid the emotional embodiment and experience. So to answer your question is kind of difficult. I don't know, and I don't think it even matters at this level. But all that is, in order to continue its eternal expansion, it needed to take on the feeling and being of itself, not just the knowing, the understanding, or the awareness of it. It's this integration of the mental with the emotional.
Do you think that's what's missed out in a lot of spiritual teachings nowadays? Extremely.
Very, very few people who call themselves on the spiritual path are really working with the emotional body. New Agers, that, if you're going to use that term, all too often are rather on the emotionally constipated side. And they're focusing so much on what they think they need to understand and do. And it's everything except the embodying, the emotional being of the truth. And that's the element that is missing the most. And what comes up most in the Akashic readings when people come to me is they're not dealing with the emotional issues. And that goes into the body, it goes into the life experiences.
Yeah, I mean, I've met a lot of even other channelers and spiritual people who, beautiful teachings, but come to a disagreement with them, and there's nothing to sort out. It's, I'm walking away from this, I can't deal with this. They're the worst sometimes for issues when they happen.
Yes, doctors are the worst patients in the world. Psychiatrists are the most screwed up of all, which is why they're trying to heal everybody else. And New Age therapists and teachers tend to be the most emotionally constipated, because they're trying to escape themselves in teaching others, and yet feeling this sense of, ooh, I'm spiritual. And spirituality actually has very little to do with what you know or understand. Spirituality really, at the deepest level, is an emotional embodiment. It's being and feeling the truth that you already know within you.
And that's what you've learned on your journey.
This is what my journey has been all about, and especially this particular incarnation.
What about those? And I've interviewed one of them as well. A lovely guy called Guy Needler, who's done the books, Beyond the Source, and so beyond the all that is, and as he says, there's just more of beyond the all there. There's more gods beyond gods beyond gods. So more beyonds. So really, it is all one in one sense.
Of course, it's all one, no matter how much you go with it.
But even the all that is may have subdivided itself off into smaller versions of itself as a god, in a sense.
Yes, quite possibly. And many of us, as we are evolving, it may be eventually to become the God consciousness, the all that is of our own universe within universes within universes. But no matter how much that's going on, it's all ultimately one being.
So we could progress in further unimaginable depths of time, well, beyond time, from where we are now to actually owning a universe.
Being the universe.
Yes.
Yes, and all the alternate universes within that universe.
The parallel universes within our own multiverses, within our own universe. Yeah, and multiverses, parallel universes, that comes into your work as well?
It's starting to come more now.
Why?
Because some people are beginning to awaken to a point where they're ready to start meeting that. But in order to integrate with the parallel universes, there has to be that completion of the emotional body. There has to be that feeling experience, the feeling learning. That's the key to crossing over and integrating. It's the feeling aspect of ourselves.
No shortcuts?
No.
Now, funny, in my interviews, this is what we've talked about more and more, the parallel universes, the infinite aspects of ourselves affecting one another. Like, I'm arguing with you in this universe, but in another parallel universe, we may be fighting like cats and dogs, or, that's an English saying, or, there might be something more subtle than that, but there's something in all of them rippling out. I mean,
And they all have lessons to teach us, no matter what we're doing in whichever universe.
And in the documentary, we touched upon the idea that how many times have we lived this lifetime? Now, I've kept saying this as a broken record. People get pissed off with me watching this. They're like, that's a load of rubbish. But I think in this interview, we brought out to the sense that, well, we may have done this before in this even current timeline.
Yeah, absolutely. Deja vu can be an explanation for that kind of situation, that it's not just remembering a past life per se, but this life that we're living in an alternate universe, and the parallel universes are trying to come together in order to coordinate and integrate the lessons that we're learning through the different choices and the different experiences.
I asked for another channeler, Whitaker, on the documentary that I'm making just the other day. I said to her channel, how many versions of Whitaker are there out there right now, and just in this current timeline? And it said back, personifying, it is unnameable, the figure, mathematically, just how many there are. That's how infinitive it is going on right now.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God.
A hologram, no matter how much you break it down, each piece, no matter how tiny it is, every piece is the totality.
So knowing this, and as you say, that as we get past certain levels of emotional ownership and everything else, that there's now in your work, this is coming out a bit more, then what else seismically, information-wise, is there still to come out? What we think we know. We think we've got all the answers in all the books out there right now. Well, we don't think that, do we? But it seems to be the truth is truth is truth. It comes out. There's more, though, isn't there?
Yes, and one of the truths is that it doesn't matter. What we know is so what? It's the name of the game now is what we feel. We've gone pretty much as far as we can go in terms of intellectual understanding. That takes you just so far. But the whole point of the Aquarian age that Mother Earth is birthing herself into now is that the Aquarian age is all about the wisdom, the knowledge that comes beyond intellectual understanding, that you can only derive through the feeling experience. You have to feel what you know, not just know it. And you have to become 100% your truth. And that's a feeling experience. Intuition is the direct communication with your higher self. Intuition is a feeling. There has to be the emotional ownership and the emotional processing in order to make the clearest, deepest connection with your intuition.
And what does that mean, emotional ownership and processing? What does that, I mean, does that mean just if it feels right, go with it? If it doesn't, then it's not?
It's owning that everything you feel is real, but everything you feel isn't necessarily true. If you feel unlovable, inadequate, insecure, those are very real feelings, but they're not true unless you choose them to be. And emotions are not necessarily there to convince you that that emotion is the truth about you. The emotions are there to say, this emotion is trying to tell you something about your relationship with yourself that you're blocking, that you're resisting, that you're not allowing to come to a completion, to a fulfillment. It's something in our relationship with ourselves we still need to go deeper into and finish, resolve that lesson.
So, okay, so you know, you've been doing this for many years now. How have you healed your issues from the work that you're doing?
I am still very much in the process of healing. I came into this life really rigidly holding on to that the physical plane is a punishing prison, and I'm a victim of this punishing prison, and my physical body is the prison that holds me in the prison. So I resented my physical existence. I always resisted each birth into a new soul experience. I didn't want to be on this plane. And I always said, because it's so painful and awful and blah, blah, blah. And all of that was a projection. It was a cover-up. It was a smoke screen that all that resentment and anger was trying to show me what it's really about is I did not trust that I could come into this dimension of existence and fully resolve and complete my issues about my relationship with myself, especially my lack of trust to fulfill the lessons I need to learn. That's what was really going on. But I hid behind all these judgmental projections and, oh, I'm a victim and blah, 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 in order to avoid it. And that went into the body. I would push it into my body, life after life after life. And now in this lifetime, it's all about cleaning out that stuff, clearing it out and coming to the truth about myself. So this body inherited everything I repressed in all my bodies before. And I have gone through one physical drama, one medical drama after another. It's a hospital soap opera of my life right now. And it's because my body's clearing out. It refuses to hold on to all these emotional denials and resistances I've held on for millennia. It's now it has to come up. So in this life, I'm going through all this physical drama to assist my body in releasing all the stuff I repressed in it, to let go of this perception of my body as a punishing prison and life as a punishing prison, and that was really just a cover-up to avoid my lack of trust in myself. So that if I focus on what I need to do and experience to feel that trust in myself, then we can begin healing and transforming these energies that have been so destructive in my body rather than constructive. And that's what my life is all about. Therefore, in my readings, I draw people with these same patterns and issues, because every reading is a mirror to me of my own process.
Much like my reading was all those years ago and still is. And I mean, I feel like I've gone through a lot of growth. I mean, doing this interview right now, I'm with you. You know, years ago, I wouldn't have kept up with you, really. Do you know what I mean?
You would have just gone blank.
Well, yeah. And now I'm like challenging you in ways of my truth that's come through in my learning curve. So I come with you in this interview in a very different space. But as were my issues. And I mean, you know, one thing William told me was how many years, lifetimes I spent in the churches, and that was so true. Oh my God! I mean, I think that's why for me, things like sex and everything else, you know, that comes with that was why they were very big issues for me sometimes, and they attracted a lot of. My work was very, you know, sort of aligned into those issues as well at the time, many years ago.
And you never believed in the religious beliefs at all. That wasn't what drew you to the church. No. You didn't believe it at all. No. But it was a way to hide. You were afraid of intimacy. You were afraid of your emotions. Mm-hmm. And being behind the stone walls and wearing the robe, it cut you off from the rest of humanity, and that was your safety net.
Yeah.
But it always was a compromise because you didn't believe the religious belief at all. So now you're trying to break through into the spiritual truth, which has nothing to do with religion whatsoever.
No.
And you're being forced to interrelate with humans on much more direct and intimate levels.
Yes, and it's took me up to 39 to get this. Yeah, and I'm still getting it, but there's no...
Whenever. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. I think I am getting it. Do you know that? I really can honestly say that with transparency, to be sat in front of, 1,000 people or more to say that. So I appreciate the gift you gave me all those years back. So when you do give a reading for someone, this isn't done in person. Well, you do in person.
I do it in person, but I used to do it through the post, which I still can.
Yes.
Or now I can do it on the internet.
Yes.
I just send a reading as an attachment to an email.
Yes, and my parents have had readings from yourselves as well, and they always love their readings. And many people, my family members, have had readings with yourself actually. But yeah, so we'll link up how to get a reading with yourself just in the description as well. So. God, so many subjects we could touch on right now. I think really, what is the most common theme, would you say, people are coming to you nowadays for?
The most common themes are the medical problems in their bodies because the planet, Mother Earth, is shifting. She's evolving into a higher vibration of light and consciousness. That's forcing all of us to go through the same thing in our bodies. So whatever we've brought into this lifetime, that's unresolved emotional issues, it's coming to the surface. And if you fear it, resist it, deny it, avoid it in any way, it comes out as illnesses and diseases in the body. So a lot of people are having very dramatic issues, especially, cancer and whatever, and they want to know what's going on and what can they do about it. And so the readings give them the karmic history, the emotional issues behind what's creating these diseases and imbalances in the body. That's one of the biggest issues. The other one is relationships. And this is because we are so brainwashed. We created religion in societies that told us male is masculine and female is feminine. And this is not true at all. They're not the same. Masculine and feminine are energies, about energy. Feminine is very magnetic. It draws to you. Masculine is electric. It sends out. So you've got to have an equilibrium. You've got to have the masculine and feminine energies cooperating in a balanced way within you so that you electrify and magnetize as you need in your life. But whether you're in a male or female body, you have to have this equal integration of masculine and feminine energies. And most people are men trying to have the females act out the feminine for them and females trying to have men act out the masculine because they're thinking they're one and the same rather than your masculine and feminine energy, whether you're a male or female body. This is one of the big lessons in bisexuality and homosexuality, is to learn that masculine and feminine have nothing to do with, with the physical body. And that sometimes in love attraction and even in sexual attraction, it's a desire to integrate masculine and feminine. And it doesn't matter whether it's in a male or female body. And now we're going even more forward because now you have people that are very unisex, whether they're changing their sex or just being both at the same time. It's about these souls who are trying to integrate the masculine and feminine within them as one integrated whole.
Yes, that is so true. What they call them, binaries, are they called?
That's one term.
Yeah, that's one term for it, isn't it? Yeah. And the world. I mean, the world is shifting, isn't it, in a lot of ways. What do you feel then, on a sort of global scale, when you look at the whole regression cycles and what we're going through emotionally right now, in the sense of the biggest world stage events as well, like the President of the United States, Kim Jong-un, whatever his name is, these bigger things going on right now?
Well, other than their hair, because Trump, Kim, and Boris Johnson all have in common really horrible hair. Well, hair represents strength. Okay, we could go with that. But the world stage is, Mother Earth as a conscious living being is purging and cleansing her body of all the rejection, the denial, the avoidance. We project it into her. She won't hold it anymore, so out it comes. And as she's cleansing herself, it forces us to do the same to ourselves. So we're having, the big weather changes and the wars and the terrorists and the hurricanes and the earthquakes, because all the crap has got to come up. It's pus and an infection coming to the surface. It has to be cleansed away. And either we see the mirroring in this, either we recognize the terrorists in us, the Trump in us, the Kim in us, even the Boris Johnson in us, and see how do we do that to ourselves. The world is a symbolic mirror. The world is just reflecting what we're projecting onto the world we live in. So rather than reacting as a victim to the world, we have to see that it's mirroring what's going on inside of us and do what's necessary to own those emotional issues and heal that relationship with ourselves that's not buying into the very rigid, limited belief systems that separates and externalizes and puts a hierarchy of people who are more spiritually developed. There's no such thing. All higher selves are equal. They're all one and the same. So we have to take ownership of our own power, our own truth, and stop relying on someone else to blame and someone else to save us.
Yeah, well, yeah, all higher selves are equal. So therefore, if we can all channel, then can't we? We can all channel our higher selves. There's just different forms of doing that. Maybe through meditation, maybe through past life regression, whatever it may be, right?
Through our dreams, just intuitive feelings,
artwork,
anything.
Yeah,
literature. A lot of authors who write novels, there is more historical fact in novels than the nonfiction books. And they're just channeling their own lifetimes, and some realize it and do it consciously, and most don't. They don't realize it.
That's amazing, isn't it? That is incredible. And just going back as well, to the spiritual community, there are, as I said before, a lot of people that I've crossed paths with that, you just, whenever there's a problem encountered, you can't fix it. They go back to as though they've not gone through all this spiritual progression or enlightenment, and they just act as though they're, not enlightened, but then you could say as well, couldn't you, that the atheist, someone that's atheist, is more enlightened than the spiritual person?
I find atheists far more spiritual because they're not dependent on an external separate God. Atheists take more self-responsibility for anyone else because they don't think there's anybody else, pulling the strings. So they tend to be far more self-owning. But spirituality has nothing to do with belief system, except in how that belief system limits you and controls you. Spirituality is all about how you feel who you are, how you live being who you are. And not because of addiction to belief systems, but because you are feeling and being your truth as deeply and fully and directly as possible.
And that could actually mean being quite a nice person as well.
It's kind of nice when it works out that way.
Yeah.
But I mean, some of the most horrendous villains on earth are spiritual beings who volunteer to play those roles in order to trigger people. I mean, we love to dump on Trump, and he's certainly acting that way. But for all we know, he's some elevated master who's playing a role because he's trying to wake up as many people. Take ownership for yourself and stop depending on me.
Just like
could be
the homeless guy on the street.
You get a drunk in the gutter. Could be an absolute spiritual master who's just playing a role to see how you react.
Yes. Yeah, it's like... there's a lot of addiction to some of the spiritual teachers out there. It's like I heard of an event with Eckhart Tolle where there were people in the background saying, "Oh, how many times have you seen Eckhart? Oh, I've seen him 5. How many times have you seen him? I've seen him 7 times." And I'm like, money, and I'm like, it's just, but they must know, these teachers, that there is spiritual addiction to them sometimes.
Of course. The more you're trying to be a spiritual leader or guru, and not dealing with your own personal issues, then you overcompensate, either through fame, through money, through the influence on other people. This is the games we've been playing all through history.
But what is wrong with a spiritual guru? Say I got myself a bit more well known in the sense of a channeler, and I had the same people keep coming back, right, in the audiences, or at least, you can't always, you're busy, you can't see who's coming in the audience, right? So, but there were some of the same people coming. How do you stop that as someone should your teachings be, you only need to see me once?
Yeah, when I used to teach and lecture, and of course I always said to the students or the listeners, you are responsible for what you accept as truth for you at any given moment. Nothing's true just because I'm saying it. I just share what's my truth. It's true to you only if you choose to. When people come to me for readings, I discourage them ever coming to me again. There are special circumstances where they'll come to me a few years later because there's something very, very specific, and then their higher self would say, okay, we'll deal with that. So occasionally I'll see somebody more than once, but very rarely. You just have to be very direct and honest to not support channel or guru addiction. But I got a very good lesson in this years ago when I met the Dalai Lama in Sweden, because I was doing a lot of readings for Tibetan refugees in Stockholm, and he would come there every year to see them, and they were all telling him about the readings with me, so he asked to meet me. And I said to him, how can you tolerate the people looking at you so adoringly, like an oversick puppy, and so addicted to you? And he said, I don't know what you're talking about. And I said, don't play stupid with me. I know you can see it. I don't know what you're talking about. I said, oh, come on. You know exactly what I'm talking about. How do you deal with it? I don't know what you're talking about. And this went on and on and on until the penny finally dropped and I understood what he was saying.
Right.
He just didn't feed it. He just looked right through it. He didn't feed it. He taught his teachings, and when they looked at him adoringly, he didn't take it on at all.
So that's the way forward with the work that we do in that sense.
That's certainly a way.
Yeah.
But and you see what he did with me, instead of just trying to get me, just saying it,
yeah.
He just kept doing what he does until I finally got it.
So do you get it now?
Oh, I get it now.
Yeah. But in that sense, then, maybe that's what some of these spiritual teachers are coming from, that space without...
Some are.
Yeah.
And some are really stuck in their ego and the greed and everything else. But again, the, quote, false gurus are an important teaching experience because everybody has to learn. There is no master but yourself. And don't give all the power and responsibility to someone else. And if you do go to a guru or a teacher, there will be a point you don't need them anymore. And they are not the source of validation of truth. Your own inner feeling is. I once had a man say to me, I know I'm my own master. My master told me so. He still wasn't getting the point.
So, okay... In that sense as well, then, let's just turn it on its head. What about some? I've come across this. I suppose that's where I'm going with this. With some of the teachers that I hear nowadays, because this is just an interesting thread, where they're very sensitive, where they're very, everything's affects them in some sense. Yet they've got the most amazing teachings.
When I went to Findhorn the first time, the spiritual community in the north of Scotland, I was having a horrendous migraine headache because the energy is so strong there. And they called in a channel healer. And she started working on me and she said, you need the talk. So she sat down in front of me and she said, pay attention. You have got to learn that the universe is going to use you as an instrument to provoke people. And you've got to let yourself be used that way. Let people be provoked. And do not ever take on personally what is not yours. And those who are so overly sensitive are not taking the step to protect the integrity of their energy field, to invoke that they will not accept, they will not take on anything from anyone that's not theirs. And that's a self-responsibility. It's an act of self-love to do that for yourself. And a lot of teachers who teach great truths, but they're still learning the lesson, perhaps, that they think they have no purpose or value unless they're doing what they're doing. And they see no sense of purpose or value in themselves just by being themselves. It's not enough to them. And so they have to do what they do to feel worthy. And we don't ever have to feel worthy. We don't have to prove ourselves to earn love. All energy is love. That's all there is. Every atom in the universe is energy. It's love. That's all there is. So we don't have to prove ourselves to what we already are. But if we're not developing that relationship with ourselves to love and trust and value ourselves enough to also protect our energies, then we're going to open ourselves up to all the crap that people project, not as a punishment, but to learn the lesson. You have to take responsibility to protect yourself and not take on what's not yours. That's a self-empowerment. It's a self-ownership. It's an act of self-love.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I think that a lot of people will resonate with that as well. So thank you for sharing that. What's some of the sort of, I mean, you've heard everything in your work, haven't you?
Oh God, there isn't anything I haven't heard.
Yeah. The people have come to you. So if they want a reading with you, they can come. Whatever the issue that they feel that's drawing them to you, it doesn't matter, does it? Whatever the issue is.
No, it doesn't matter at all. If they're coming to me for reading, it's not because they're curious or they're doing it because everybody else is, or they just want to know who they were, and did I know Elizabeth I, and, was I the one Jesus really loved, and this stuff, You have to have a real issue that you feel you're stuck, you need help on. The readings don't tell you what to do. They don't tell you the future. They explain why things are the way they are, why that issue is manifesting the way it is, so you understand why and how it's unfolding in your life, so that you make a much clearer, more conscious choice that is far more beneficial and supportive for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that. And again, all lives, past and future, are happening now, would you say?
Yeah, I mean, now we can really confuse people because we experience everything in linear time, because that apparently is how we learn to take on the emotional body and develop this relationship with ourselves. We need this linear experience. But that's only in this dimension. Once you're out of this dimension, there's no such thing as time. Everything is now. And in the level of consciousness of our higher selves, the higher self is seeing all lifetimes at once. And all lifetimes affect all lifetimes at once. And this is a bit much for the mind to take on, and it becomes very mental. You can get so lost mentally in trying to grasp this, but for some people, they're getting to a point where actually they need to understand that because they're starting to experience that, and they need to know what they're experiencing. Yeah. I'm in my dream state. Yeah. I'm traveling into some of the parallel universes I'm living. So I needed a grasp of what was going on, or that would drive me nuts.
Right.
But for some people, stay in the linear, and that's okay. But because some people are starting to experience this, then they need to know time only exists in this dimension, and everything is now. And all lifetimes affect all lifetimes simultaneously. So the healing is on so many levels all at once.
Yeah, absolutely. And, there may be people watching this that have a science-based interest as well, or they maybe know someone who's a scientist, right? And, they would say, unless it's provable and repeatable, it can't be so. Yeah. Why would the all that is hide itself from being repeatable, from being known?
First of all, the main reason is because we tend to make it a very intellectual pursuit. Yes. And that's very limited. It's very one-sided. And what the totality needs is this completion of itself through the development of the emotional body. So we've actually needed to know or understand less and feel more. And then once we get the feeling aspect of ourselves on an equal level with the mental, then the knowledge that's been taken away can start coming back, so long as we don't get lost in it again, but we can assimilate it, integrate it in a feeling level, not just the mental understanding.
And if people have heard different truths from different people and they're coming across this material now and they're like, well, the truth I heard from someone else felt right and your truth feels right, but they're two opposite kind of truths. Is all truth okay?
Truth is only what you feel is true in the moment. And you've got to be willing to let your truth change. You know, and people say, well, what about absolute truth? I said, same thing. Whatever you feel in the deepest part of yourself in any moment, that's the truth for you in that moment. And that's part of the training of the feeling relationship of yourself. Because intuition, which is the direct voice of your higher self, is a feeling. It's not a thought, it's a feeling.
But then what if when you get home, whatever home is, or heaven, or whatever you want to personify it, it's just whatever you know, maybe more of this kind of as real reality, as I call it, yeah? I know I'm here, I know this is real, I think it is, right? You know, fluffy clouds never did it for me, the understanding of what home might be,
and
right? And a harp.
harp.
No, not same, right, yeah. What if then you get home and you're sort of said, they say, well, there's a book, you got it a little bit wrong, just read these few pages, you'll see that actually what you were preaching or what you thought was felt truth at the time is maybe not, but I don't think it's like that, is it? Do you know what I mean? I think when you cross over, you're still allowed to make your truth up on what it is.
Yeah, I mean, we are on an eternal expansion journey. There's no end.
So so it's an impossible question to ask then, isn't it, really? In one sense, when we cross over, what if you know, we're made aware of somehow that it wasn't, you know, quite right what you thought was right? Is that a waste of time? Why would we put ourselves through something in this lifetime saying...
Because it was mirroring to us something about ourselves we needed to recognize, take ownership of, and work with.
But what if it helped a lot of people for them to believe your truth?
As long as you're willing to be flexible and to trust your intuitive feeling that whatever feels is truth in the moment is truth in the moment. I had someone who, I mean, to illustrate this, someone who came for a reading.
Right.
He was a channel.
Oh.
He came from an ultra Christian family. So he was ostracized. He's the devil, you know. And he had a sister who was just ultra conservative Christian. And she always telling him he's satanic, he's going to hell, and blah, blah, blah. Okay, she died. And while I was talking to him with his reading, I felt her, she was in the room listening to the reading.
Oh.
And my higher self tuned me in so I could hear what was going on. And she was furious. She had crossed over when she died, and she was livid because she was met by Yeshua, or most people call him Jesus. And she said, "Aha! You're there. I was right." And he said, "Actually, no. The only reason I'm here is because you expected to see me. So I'm here just as a reflection of your expectation. But no, your belief system is no." And she was furious because she was certain. She knew she was right and everybody else was wrong. No. And she'd crossed over.
Yes.
And she was having a hell of a time readjusting to the fact that everything she believed in was her ego fantasy. And it was her desire to have somebody else to blame, somebody else to save her, and she wasn't responsible. And to suffer is to be a saint, and blah, blah, blah. She didn't want to hear that it was all her self-creation. So she had come to him to say, "You were right, and I'm not right." But she was having a very hard time with it. So here she's finished her life and crossed over, and she was in a worse crisis than before. And I don't know how long she'll be there, and she'll probably create more incarnations to continue working with it.
Okay. But so what you're saying is that as well, that if we create a truth here, then we carry that truth with us when we cross over, as in, Jesus, another name for him, appeared, but it appeared in the way of saying, well, no, actually, I'm not the truth that you thought I was.
The most important spiritual film to ever come out was What Dreams May Come with Robin Williams. This is the most important and powerful spiritual dream, because it's all about you see what you choose to see. You create what you believe. And Robin Williams is, the two children die in a car accident, and the husband and wife are grieving and can't deal with it.
Yes.
The mother commits suicide, and then finally he dies. And when he crosses over and finds his wife, she's in a self-created hell, because her belief system is if you kill yourself, you're damned to hell. And she's trapped in that self-created hell. You experience what you believe and what you expect. So he went in there well, I won't tell you what happens, but he's trying to show her what's going on. But the whole movie is created that you experience what you choose, what you believe, what you want, what you think you want. And this movie was shocking to so many people because, somebody came and suffered for me and died for me and saves me, and I only have to believe him, and everybody else is wrong and going to hell. No. So when you cross over, you experience it according to your belief system. And then you have guides that try to show this to you. And if you're not willing to work with that, well, we send you back and we'll try another life.
Or maybe you can keep creating that experience that he did. And and no one's going to force you not to believe that.
And then you're in a vicious cycle and slowly but surely getting nowhere fast.
Sounds like here.
Sounds like Earth.
Right. Yeah. Okay. But then are there ultimate truths?
Yes and no. The ultimate truth is yes and no. Because we are in an eternal state of expansion, there's always going to be more and more ultimate truths that will lead to more and more ultimate truths.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
Yes and no.
So,
it depends on where you are.
So this is why in this reality, we can create the reality we want,
whether you like it or not, and whether it's good for you or not.
Do you think some realities are created because they're the best for you and some don't happen even though you want them to happen because actually they're not the best for your soul's progression?
Exactly.
So it is like that, really. So even though we say you can create it, actually, is it the best thing for you to become a space pilot right now? Maybe not. It's a great idea, but is it? But so when they say you can have anything you want, I'm saying no. It's maybe anything that is the best alignment for your soul's path.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. So. But don't stop trying as long as it feels right.
But if you're not getting what you think you want, then you need to take a look at that and why. Why is it that you want this?
Did I really love it in the first place?
Yeah. What is it that I really want that I think it's this way? Or what am I avoiding? What am I trying to run away from by insisting on I want this? There can be so many reasons behind what you think you want.
Yeah.
And you have to be willing to look at those.
Why do I keep banging on about in my interviews a spirituality 2.0 wanting to come through? Like it's almost like I keep using those words. Like there has to be a better version of spirituality than we've got now, or something that's going to just push us along a bit quicker. And then, I mean, is that my wanting to be things to change quicker? I don't know. Maybe.
Yes, and wanting things to change quicker is often a symptom of lack of trust.
Right.
The longer it takes, the more likely I'm going to screw up, for example. It's a trust issue usually when you want things much quicker.
I guess it would be nice to see the Earth coming at a different perspective, just a bit more, less talks of, I'll destroy this continent and all that kind of stuff and wipe them out, and actually more of let's embrace that oneness a bit more. Mm. I guess I say, and I'm just thinking, and I also say it from like what seismic information is being hidden from ourselves by ourselves because we're not ready, that if it did come through now, it would just be a little bit nicer, easier, or is that avoidance?
Or maybe, the greater seismic truth would be so traumatic and shocking because we're not ready for it. Or you need a certain level of emotional ownership, self-responsibility. Right. Otherwise, it's very easy to twist and distort that truth into something else.
But why have I been allowed to even think that way? I mean, we all have free will. I mean, someone else could have thought this way. Is there more seismic information? I'm sure they have. But why? I wonder why that's been coming from me. But then, as you say, maybe we're not ready for it for the exact reasons you've said. And I do resonate with what you're saying.
And I think a lot of it is also because of your so many lifetimes as monks and priests, because they were always trying to find this spiritual ideal. And they thought that the quickest way to get to it is total self-denial, and you have to live in poverty, and you have to suffer, and blah, blah, blah. Yes. So they were in a hurry to get to a false ideal that has nothing to do with reality. And I think perhaps that was kind of an underlying issue with you in going back into the church so many lives, and your higher self was trying to show you this is an over-idealistic pursuit that has nothing to do with the reality that you really need to be concentrating on and working with.
Yes, and had you could have said anything to me in my reading, having a past life reading with yourself, when you said about going into the church, which that was not even in my tiny brain at the time that you'd ever even mentioned that. I thought you were going to say something. Whoa, you got me there, brother. You got me there, because then my deepest, darkest secrets and patterns internally that have been going on for a long time all made sense. I was like, shit.
Yeah.
Whoa, I messed myself right up doing that.
And because you went into the church again and again, never believing its religious beliefs and forms. I mean, you used to say to yourself, you have to be brainless to believe this stuff. But you promoted it because you were trying to hide behind it and be safe. And I think there is a very deep guilt and self-judgment that you're healing, that you need to let go of. By now, you're trying to help people come to their spiritual truth within themselves and free themselves of this addiction to a religious belief system, and that you can be spiritual if you're full of guilt and shame, and
And I think that's what a lot of people watching my show, male, females, will resonate. I believe that the people that watch my show are on the same soul path as me. I come to realize that, and that's why they watch other shows sometimes, or I see what's going on. There's a bigger picture, they're going through some of the same karmic issues. But I have to say, I'm in a different place right now, and I'm not saying that just to say it, so that I'm saying it. It's just, I feel it. Okay, I'll use those words. Even more, it's like, oh God, feeling what? You don't feel nothing, but yeah, I do feel it a little bit. So as I wag my finger at you. Okay. Wow, we've covered so much, and we were almost at the end right now. But yeah, where would you like to see the world that you're leaving with? If you in 20 years' time looked back on the world and say, right, I've left this world in a better place with the work that I've done, is that the best we can all do?
The best you can do is to be your innermost truth as directly, deeply, and honestly as possible. What effect it has on others is for them to determine. It's not your responsibility. As long as you were your truest self as fully and honestly as possible, I think that's the best you can do.
And that doesn't matter what you do?
Yeah.
Would you add on there, as long as it's not hurting yourself and others knowingly?
Yes.
Because once you get to that point, when you knowingly know you're hurting someone, doing what you say you love, how can that be love in the first place?
Well, I mean, it is what it is, and you have to take it as that. But still, ultimately, all experiences are positive and loving if you allow yourself to learn and grow from it. But I mean, people have to take responsibility for their negative, destructive behavior. They have to take responsibility for that. But no matter what we experience, at some point, hopefully we can accept the benefit of some growth or lesson that we learned from it.
Yeah, absolutely. What would you say then? Is the most important message of your work?
Take responsibility for yourself, and do so without judgment. Be as self-authoritative and empowered as you can, and really feel and trust it as deeply as possible.
Okay. Well, William, my friend, I hope we cross paths again soon. Just thank you so much for coming on the documentary, and thank you for this interview.
Thank you, Kevin.